Well, I normally wear a robe when I preside and preach and do all that stuff, but since they asked me to sing with the worship team, I've analyzed in my brain, and I felt more uncomfortable wearing my robe singing with them than not wearing my robe and preaching to you guys. So it just kind of got to go with the flow here. They also said I looked holier than they did, and they were really uncomfortable with that. So we just kind of compromised a little bit. Well, the sermon today, the title says Rules for Holy Living. And that title literally comes right out of the NIV for this particular section of the book of Colossians. And I'm a little unnerved by the title, even though I gave it the title and ran with the title, because I think St. Paul really is trying to teach us something else. Because so many people have an attitude that all the church is a bunch of rules of do this and don't do that. And really what St. Paul is talking about is something extraordinarily different. He's talking about all of us taking our hearts, our passions, our desires, our priorities in life, and set them on things that are higher, things that are from above. That we're to take our minds, our reasoning, and our evaluation, our planning, and we're to set our mind on higher things, things that are from above. Now you might ask, well, why should we do that? Well, as I reflected on this, I thought of all kinds of reasons why we should set our mind on higher things, why we should be a people of holy living. I think of our world. That people who live holy lives, I believe, can impact the world and make a difference in the world. My wife and I, many of you know, we just got back last month from an archaeological dig in Jordan, thanks to a tremendous gift by you guys. And I got to admit that going over to Jordan, I was a little nervous about the whole thing. I mean, we were just off the heels of the Christmas bomber, the guy, that tried to blow up the plane by, I won't go into details, but, what he was doing. He was trying to blow up this plane, and here we are, flying into an Arab country. And I got to admit, I was a little bit leery of this, a little nervous about this. It was foreign ground to me. My wife, she took it one step better. We had a conversation on the way over on the flight, and she said, why do the Arab people, why do Islamic people, why do these terrorists not like us? She said, I can't understand why somebody doesn't like me. And I said, it's nothing personal. But she was bound and determined that somehow she had done something to offend somebody. And you got to understand my wife. She is the hostess with the mostest, and she wants everybody to be happy. So she said, my goal is I'm going to convert the whole country of Jordan so that they like Christians when this is all over with. And I thought, good luck with that one, huh? Well, it's interesting. Toward the end of that trip, one of our connections with the country of Jordan, a man by the name of Hussein, who worked with the Department of Antiquities, he was literally taken by my wife. He was struck by her. I don't know if it was the blonde hair and blue eyes, probably had a little bit to do with that, but at the same time, I think he was kind of enamored by her character, her persona, her character, the way she carried herself, the way she treated other people. And Hussein came up to Sherry and he said, I need to find a woman like you. I was standing right there. And I got a little unnerved by this because Hussein is married and has 5 kids, and he could tell kind of the perplexed look in my face, and he said, not for me, for my nephew. I need to find a woman like you for my nephew. And then he looked right at Sherry and said, you will help me find a woman like you for my nephew. And Sherry said, yeah. She says, I know all kinds of women like me. And his whole face just lit up. He said, really? That's wonderful. And she said, there's one problem. He said, what's that? She said, "They're all Christian." And he said, "Oh." He couldn't go there. And yet, her Christianity radiated out from her and was attractive to this man who was not of the Christian faith. A man who wasn't supposed to have dealings with Christians. A man who was supposed to kind of hold Christianity and this whole thing at bay. And yet, he was attracted by the presence of God's Spirit. Her holy living, I believe, impacted Hussein. We can impact our world by living lives that are holy. I believe that our country is in desperate need of holy people. I believe our country is in serious trouble if it doesn't have citizens who live holy lives. You see, our forefathers, going all the way back, knew this truth. They knew something very powerful about this whole government that they were setting up. They knew that it took a special kind of people to make this whole system work. John Adams summed it up probably the best of any of them. He said, "This Constitution we have written is for a religious and moral people. It cannot stand with any other." In other words, if we are not religious, if we are not in connection with God, if we are not living lives that are holy, this country can't stand. The Constitution will simply be swept away and considered just a sheet of paper. For our very survival as a nation, we need lives of holy living. Our neighborhoods. I don't know about you, but I want my neighborhood to be a safe place. A place where I feel comfortable coming home to, a place that I desire to be in. And yet, so many of our neighborhoods are so turbulent. And they're turbulent because we're not living holy lives. We're not treating each other with love and respect. I've shared with some of you that one of the things I like to do in our neighborhood is to fire up the snowblower. We got 5 single ladies living on our street, and I love feeling all manly and blowing snow out of their driveways. Now, I know what you're thinking. They're all in their 80s, so it's very above board. And I love doing this. I love just having that engine revving. Somebody from the East Campus said, "Real men shovel snow, with shovels." And I said, "I don't care. I like that motor running and feel all manly and everything." Huh? Do it out of just love. And these ladies will come out and they'll say, "Oh, thank you for doing that." And I said, "That's what neighbors do, that's just what neighbors do." Last Saturday, as I got done preaching at the East Campus, I got home. It's about 6:30, 6:45, and right behind me, going in the door, was our neighbor Carol. Lives straight across the street. Carol had a plate, foil covering this thing. It was just mounted up and a card on top, and she said, I made you some breakfast. So she made us some rolls, and they were just absolutely incredible, and and she said, this is for blowing the snow out of my driveway, because I can't put into words how much that means to me, And I thought, that's really nice. And I took the card off and I looked at the rolls and I ate one right away, didn't wait for breakfast, but I took the card and expected it to be a thank you card and you're a wonderful neighbor and all that kind of stuff. And I opened it up and it was a thank you, but she had made a donation to Heifer International in Sherry and I's name because we blew some snow. The Heifer International is where you buy livestock that are not to be slaughtered to replicate and to give more offspring and create a sustainable life in a third world country. So just because I blew snow in my neighborhood, God took that simple act, placed it in her heart, and now that act of holiness is impacting a third world village someplace where they're getting sustainable life. That's the way it works.